Hello everyone and welcome to week 2 yoga. Since we're all friends, I do not have makeup on. I hope that is okay, but it is just yoga and I want y'all to be relaxed. So I was like, let's not even worry about makeup today. Anyhow, to the yoga. I thought today we would do a little bit more stretching. These workouts are challenging and you gals are on the go, so we don't need to go anymore. Today I want you to start in extended child's pose. So for extended child's pose, take your big toes to touching or close to touching. Pull your hips back towards your heels and reach your arms out in front of you as you let your chest melt down and your forehead rest on the mat. And just take a couple of nice, slow, deep breaths here. Notice a shift in how you feel once you take the time to just slow down and take mindful breaths. Now, as you stay in child's pose, what I want you to do is walk your hands over to the right and just feel a lengthening and a stretch all along the left side of your body. Use your breath to find a deeper stretching sensation. And then walk your hands over to the right. Now feeling that length and that stretch all along the right side of the body. Allow your right ribs to roll down as your left rib cage rolls up a little bit, keeping the shoulders squared down to the ground. Finally, inhale, return back to center child's pose. Perhaps inching your fingertips out just a little bit farther or sinking the hips even deeper. Then come all the way up into a tabletop position. So bring the knees in so that they're underneath the hips and line up your shins so they're parallel to one another. Shoulders are above the wrists. With the breath in, come into cow. Let the belly release as your hips tilt up and your gaze goes up and the heart goes forward. And then exhale, round through the back, chin towards the chest, anchor the tailbone. Again, inhale into cow, heart and hips up. Exhale, round into cat, empty the lungs. Last time, inhale, cow. And then exhale, round into cat. Come back into your neutral spine. I'm going to have you walk your hands about 6 to 8 inches forward. And then curl the toes under behind you as you lift your hips up and back into our first downward facing dog. And as you come into this first downward dog, take some time to pedal out the feet. And bend the knees. Maybe rotate the hips from right to left. And focus here on creating space and length. Pushing your hands forward and down into the ground, lifting the hips up and back, and then pressing the chest towards the thighs. For those of you with the really tight hamstrings, take a soft bend in the knee and press the belly towards the thighs from there. Now take a breath in your downward dog. And then as you exhale, walk your feet to meet your hands at the top of your space. With the breath in, lift halfway, lengthen. And then exhale and soften into forward fold. Inhale, mountain. Sweep your arms all the way up and overhead. Palms touch. Exhale, forward fold. Dive down. Lead with the heart. Inhale, take a halfway lift. And then exhale back down. Forward fold. We're going to repeat those few actions here. Inhale, mountain. Stretch and stand all the way up. Exhale, forward fold. Lead with the heart. Send the hips back. Crown down last. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, forward fold. more. Inhale, mountain. Sweep and reach up. Exhale, Uttanasana, forward fold. Inhale, take a halfway lift. And then exhale back down into the fold. Now while you're in this forward fold, I want you to sweep the hands behind the back. Interlace the fingers. Come into a chest expansion. So actively reach the knuckles up and away. Move the weight into the balls of the toes. Feel that stretch across your chest, into the front of the shoulders, releasing all of the work from the upper body this week, the push-ups, the planks, and everything else that I invited you to do and that you willingly and gladly did. Then release the fingertips down towards the ground. As you breathe in, take another halfway lift. But as you exhale, step back into plank. Plant your hands and step back. From your plank, lower all the way down to the ground. Remember, we can always use our knees. And then point your toes back behind you. Push the tops of the feet down. Inhale, peel forward and up into cobra. And just make sure the chin isn't coming away from the chest. Rather, the chin is on the horizon, the elbows squeeze and in, the hands pull back, and the heart draws forward. Take one more breath in. And then exhale, gently lower. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale, peel forward, peel up into cobra. Hardly any weight is in the hands. What energy is there, it's drawing back. And then exhale, gently lower. One last time. Inhale, peel forward, peel up. Make sure the shoulders haven't crept up towards the ears, but relax them down. Push the tops of the feet down. Draw the navel in, low belly draws in. Breath in. Child's pose as you exhale. So push into the hands. Hips to heels. Your knees can be wide or together. And just sink back down. From your child's pose, rise back up into downward facing dog. And I am going to have us do just a little bit of a flow today. From your downward facing dog, stretch and reach your right leg towards the ceiling. As you exhale, step through to find a lunge. So your right knee is over the right ankle, the left leg is straight and strong back behind you. As you breathe in, you're going to stand all the way up into crescent lunge, biceps by the ears, hips sinking and stretching low. As you exhale, it's warrior 2. Press your back heel down, reach the arms out, and gaze over your right fingertips. Make sure the right toes are pointing forward and the knees right in line with the ankle. Now inhale, reverse warrior. Stretch your right arm up and then back. Lightweight on this backhand, think more lift, and then reach back as you breathe in. Exhale is chaturanga or downward facing dog. So you can step back to downward dog here, or lower halfway, elbows nice and narrow. Inhale, upward facing dog or cobra. Exhale back, downward facing dog. Left side, inhale, left leg stretches up and back. Exhale, step through for lunge. And take as much time as you need to get into that lunge. I realize that's a really big step. So set the foundation, knee over ankle, hip in line with the knee, back leg strong, and then rise up for crescent lunge. Your back heel is over the balls of the toes. I don't know if you can see that here. Perpendicular to the ground with the foot. Ribs in, shoulders over hips, fingertips reaching, breath in. Exhale, open into warrior 2. Sit into those hips to where you feel a stretch to the inner thighs, the groins. Open your left knee towards the left pinky toe. And as you breathe in, reverse warrior. Lift up, stretch back. Feel light through the heart, anchored through the hips. Take another inhale. And exhale, release to downward facing dog or chaturanga. If you're taking the chaturanga, inhale, upward dog or cobra. And then we meet together in downward facing dog. So we're actually going to do those few poses a couple times together here with our breath. Inhale, right leg up. Exhale, lunge, stepping through. Inhale for crescent lunge. Exhale, warrior two, hips and shoulders open. Inhale, reverse warrior, reach up and reach back. Exhale to downward dog or chaturanga. Remember, you can always use the knees on the chaturanga. Shoulders away from ears on upward dog or cobra. Left side, inhale, left leg up. Exhale, step through lunge. Inhale, sweep high, crescent lunge, anchor the tailbone. Exhale, open, warrior two, sit low. Stay low, inhale, reverse warrior, up and back, we reach. Exhale, release, chaturanga, or downward facing dog. One last time together, then we'll stretch. Inhale, right leg up. Exhale, lunge. Inhale into crescent lunge. Follow your breath. Exhale, empty, warrior two, nice and low. Inhale, reverse warrior. Keep the weight even on the feet. Exhale, release, chaturanga or down dog. And then our last vinyasa flow. Inhale, left leg high. Exhale, step through lunge. Inhale, sweep up for crescent lunge. Exhale, open, warrior two. Inhale, reverse warrior. Exhale, release, chaturanga or downward facing dog. And then just take a moment in your downward facing dog. Remember, the weight is forward in the hands and the finger pads and in the knuckles. Not sinking in the wrists. Not dumping in the palm of the hand. The palm is lifting like a little suction cup. Now, from your downward facing dog, take your right leg high again. And then exhale for a pigeon pose. Right knee comes towards the right wrist. Extend the left leg straight back behind you so the toes point straight back. The top of the foot is pressing down. I like to start by walking my hands back by my hips and lifting the chest. So shoulders are stacked over hips. And eventually we're going to wiggle this right heel farther and farther away from the left hip bone. Stay up here if you need to, or start to lower yourself down. Remember, we did this pose last week. We don't want all the weight to roll over to the right side here. Hips stay square to the mat. You can come all the way down to your forearms, or you could rest your hands, your head on your hands. Take about 6 breaths here. Just enjoy the stillness. As you breathe in, start to lift your chest and your shoulders back up. We're going to come into a pretty big hip opener here. You're going to keep your right leg forward. Come onto the right hip and swing the left leg around. I'm going to turn to face forward here. So what you're doing, this is cow face legs if you're familiar with the pose. You're going to be stacking your knees, your left knee on top of your right. And that's a really hard thing to do because what happens is this left hip wants to come off of the ground. So anchor it down. And if you cannot anchor it down, extend your right leg forward so that you can just line up the knees. So wherever you are, it's great. I'm going to come back to both knees bent. You're now feeling this more in the left hip than the right. Wherever you are, we're going to start to fold forward. Feel a deep stretch through the hips. Patient with your body, allowing it time to open up. Always honoring where you are. Let's take 3 breaths here. Make sure shoulders are relaxed. And with your next inhale, please unwind, or actually lift up. Uncross your feet. I'm going to turn sideways again. And take your feet hip width distance apart in front of you. Hands come behind the back. Fingers point forward. If you have really tight shoulders, you can start to turn your hands out a little bit. Just make sure the hands don't point behind you. So with your hands set up, reverse tabletop. Lift the hips in line with the knees. Make sure the hips aren't dipping down. Open up across the chest. You're going to feel this in your biceps, your forearms, your shoulders. A lot of stuff going on here. Lift the hips, hug the heels back for 4. Keep on breathing for 3, 2, and on 1. Release the hips down. We're going to come into pigeon on the left from here. So swing your right leg back behind you. Left knee is now forward. Square the hips to the ground as you reach the right toes straight back. Walk the hands back to lift the chest. Come up and out of the waist. And then allow yourself to walk down. So since I talked about alignment on the first side, I'll talk about modifications on the second side. If you can't do this because of hip, knee, or ankle injuries, remember you can always come onto your back and do a reclined figure 4. Same stretch, same part of the body, just without those harsh angles. Continue to keep the breath steady. As you breathe in, lift back up. Roll the weight to the left hip as you swing your right leg on top. So coming into cow face with the right knee stacked on top of left. And a little trick that I like to do, I like to lean forward and line up my knees here and then sit back. You want your heels to be equidistant from the hips. So if your left heel, or if your right heel is 4 inches away from the left hip, you want your left heel to be 4 inches away from your right hip. So things to keep in mind. Remember, if you cannot get this right hip to sit down, extend the left leg so that you can. And then once you've got your hips rooted, sit bones pressing into the ground, if you could handle a little more stretch, go ahead and hinge at the hips, lean forward and fold. Try and soften wherever you can, whether it's your upper back, your shoulders, your jaw. Send the breath to wherever you're feeling tightness. For me, it's that right hip a lot right now. And then as you breathe in, unwind, lift up. One more set of reverse tabletop because it is so good for us and we all feel it so much. Hands behind the back, fingers point forward, feet are parallel. Inhale, hips lift up. Hips in line with the knees and the shoulders, collarbones wide. Remember, your finger pads are pressing down here. You're not sinking into the heels of the hands or the wrists, but you're lifting and lengthening, and always breathing. One more inhale here. And then exhale, lower the hips down. Cross your ankles, come forward into downward facing dog. And I actually need you to lift your left leg high. Since we lifted the right leg to begin our pigeon sequence, lift that left leg up and then set it back down. Great work. From your downward facing dog, take an inhale. Then exhale, come all the way through to seated. Now, once you're seated, plant your feet just like we did for reverse tabletop. But please lay back. Come into a supine position. Take your arms right by your side and see if you can graze your heels. If you can, it's no big deal, but I just want you to know that's how close we're trying to get. With your feet parallel, knees to the sky, arms by your sides, press your low back into the ground. Take out any space between your torso and the mat. And with your next breath in, lift the hips, bridge pose. Just like reverse tabletop, hug your heels back. Gently press the back of the head into the mat. And breathe chest to chin. Lengthen the tailbone away from the body. And then gently set the hips back down. Bring the soles of the feet to touch. Open your knees wide for Supta Baddha Konasana. And you can keep your arms out to the sides, or you can bring one hand to your stomach, one hand to your heart. Eyes open, your eyes closed. And gently draw your knees together. Keep your right leg bent, but extend your left leg long. And hug the right knee into the body. Give it a squeeze. Let's come into a twist. Draw the right thigh across your body as your right arm goes out to a T or a goalpost position. Your right shoulder stays anchored down. I want you to focus on lengthening your right hip away from your right armpit. The breath in, come back to center and switch sides. Extend your right leg long as you hug the left knee in. Squeeze. And then twist. Left leg across the body. Left arm out to the side. Find that length again. Find your edge in the twist, and then just soften into that space. We don't want to ever crank or force ourselves into any poses. And inhale, come back to center. Draw your right knee in to meet the left and just rock side to side. Now, from here, I'm going to move into legs up the wall. You don't actually need a wall to do legs up the wall. So if you're like in the middle of your house where you don't have a wall, Just go ahead and extend your feet towards the ceiling. However, you can scooch over to the wall like me. Take one of your hips right to the wall and then swing your legs around. Let your feet, your heels just rest on the wall. And if you have really tight hamstrings, you can scoot your butt away from the wall and allow your knees to slightly bend. So however you can be comfortable in the pose, you could also take a really wide straddle here if you want to stretch out those inner thighs. But wherever you are, this is where we're actually going to spend Shavasana. So do whatever you'd like with your arms. Rest them out to the sides or rest them one hand to heart, one hand to belly, and just breathe. So since we are all doing this on our own, at home, wherever it is that you're doing this yoga class, I invite you to stay in legs at the wall for as long as you like. It is an extremely restorative pose. It's doing wonderful things for your body right now. So please stay in legs at the wall as long as you can, as long as you want to. For those of you that do need to get on with your day, go ahead and let your legs spin to one side. Press yourself up to a seated position, pushing yourself away from the wall. Once you're away from the wall, go ahead and find a nice, comfortable seat. Bring your hands together at heart center as you sit up tall, feeling grounded, connected to your breath, connected to your body. We'll end with one last breath together. Please take an inhale here. And as you exhale, bow forward. Namaste. Great class, you guys.